And when I guess the continent was colonized at first, we recently there were the what was it 275th birthday of founder and Masonic president of the U.S. George Washington, and a simple search I guess on Wikipedia on the Mayflower, of course states that the Mayflower was the ship that transported the Pilgrim Fathers from Plymouth, England to Virginia, U.S. And Alan, are you saying that there's something to add to that?
Yes, I mean, obviously this wasn't the first part of the colonization, and yet so much attention is given to this particular group coming in. People had been coming in for a long time beforehand, but it became almost part of the American tradition that there was something very special about the Mayflower coming in. Mm-hmm. And they've never really gone into it, except when you follow the history of the Mayflower, it was to do with families from different parts of Europe that went under a cover of Christianity. They were tended to be very wealthy families, mm-hmm. and going under sort of Puritan guise, and their ancestry often were into revolutionaries in different parts of Europe, the Waldenses and different sects. They ultimately all became part of the Puritan movement, and they moved into the U.S. And even, as I say, the name of the ship, the Mayflower, May Day is their big day, and the mysteries. Yeah.
So these are the pilgrims. Do you know why they call it this? The name? Where does it?
Well, a pilgrim was often, especially in the 1800s, in fact, it was common in Freemasonic meetings when you met someone to call them a pilgrim or a traveler. It was one who was on the journey, looking, seeking that which was lost. That's what they would say. Are you a pilgrim? And so it's part of a mystery religion. And I'm sure lots of the Puritans came in, and they were actually descended from the Albigensians of Europe.
This is a family bloodline?
That and almost a separate religion, which could almost emulate and simulate Christianity, but it had an esoteric side to it. It's part of a mystery-type religion.
Okay.
The Cathars and the Albigensians rivaled, in parts of Europe, they rivaled the Catholic Church at one time. They also had an almost mirror-type image of the Catholic hierarchy structure. They were very wealthy people. They had their own bishops and priests, but they had almost a mirror image and yet an opposite viewpoint on what the God was. And the God of the world was their enemy, according to them. And therefore, he who ruled the world was Satan.
Ah, okay. And did they...
Anything off the world was Satan's. And they also had a form of almost reincarnation belief tucked away, hidden in the esoteric side of the religion that was kept quiet from the lower orders.
It sounds very Gnostic, I guess, in some terms.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also they believed that it was doing a child no favor to bring them into this world. So there's a lot written during the Inquisitions about them. We don't know how much is true, because obviously those who are the victors always defame those that they beat. But over and over again, we do know they had almost a communal type celebratory days or festivals, which in a sense were orgiastic.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, do you think that some of these actually infiltrated themselves within, the Catholic Church and stuff like this? This is, I mean, must have happened in
I'm sure of it. In fact, when they scattered, here's the Vatican declaring the last crusade, which was not in the Middle East, it was in parts of Europe. and it was against the Cathars and the Albigensians.
Yeah.
That was the last crusade that was ordered by the papacy, and they chased them. They didn't all get killed or slaughtered. Many of them did.
Hmm.
And you'll find from the Holy Blood, Holy Grail, this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they're always leading to, of those that escaped with the relics of their holy religion.
Sure.
They always wrap it in without telling the whole story, because they were wrapped in with the Templars and different organizations, brotherhoods.
Yeah.
Even though they were mainly a lay type organization, where they did marry, as opposed to the Knights Templars, they didn't marry, but they had their lay organization, and the Cathars and Albigensians seem to have been it.
Interesting. You mentioned the Puritans also. What's for those that don't know, what is this group? Is this a Christian group?
Yeah, the Puritans were. It was almost a reverting to the Old Testament laws, where everything became somber. There was to be no dancing, no gaiety, no happiness, just hard work and praising God quietly.
Yeah.
That was the Puritan movement. That was it was really financed from Holland into existence, especially in England, through Oliver Cromwell.
Connect with the Puritans in any way?
You will find that all of them have their roots around the same time period. The Amish and different groups originated in Germany. They kept a lot of their traditions and their language often. When I look at the groups like the Amish or the Mennonites, I see it a bit differently. I see them all almost like experiments in controlled breeding. Because you're taking a group out of a population, and within that group you arrange marriages, and their marriages are arranged. And you can select under a controlled study of who marries whom, and it's almost like an experiment in breeding. That's how I see these things.
Yeah.
And the same with the Mormons.
And these, do they pick each other's, wives and so forth there too in the Mormons?
Yeah, very, very often. Their wives are picked for them, and in the Mennonites, for instance, there's big money involved in marriages because they tend to be pretty wealthy people. The Mennonites and Amish, and when weddings take place, it's almost a business deal between the families because big estates are involved. Often very large tracts of land, lots of money. So there's a lot more than just. They don't allow them just to pick their own mate.
Ah, okay, yeah. One thing that comes to mind when speaking about the Mormons is it feels like there's a lot of also Old Testament connections and going back to the stuff about Israel and so forth. I know that there's some Freemasonic connection to it all, but do you know about the Salt Lake, the area? Is the connection between Israel and the Salt Lake in I don't know. Do you know what the region is called?
Yeah, there's a Dead Sea.
Yeah.
As well, the Dead Sea in Israel is salt.
That's right. Yeah.
And so there's a connection to an extent there, but I think it's even more so than that. Joseph Smith is the founder of the Mormon group.
Yeah.
And once again, you'll find that Joe Smith was a Mason, a Freemason.
Yeah.
You can find that they have an order called the elect for men within Mormonism. And when you become an electi and you're elected in, you go through the same rituals and the same secret oaths as Freemasonry. They're identical. They are the same. They're one and the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, this is another control group for experimentation on controlled breeding.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Regarding the Dead Sea, of course, I guess there's a lot of salt lakes around the place. We even got a salt lake or a saltsjö, as we call it in Sweden, Saltsjöbaden and stuff like this.
Yes.
So I guess this is a lot of places that this kind of connects with. So, regarding, again, I guess returning to the Swedish theme here, but that's how it is, considering that we are here as it is now. But regarding the Mayflower itself, I don't know if you guys, either in Canada or in the U.S., have something like this, but we have school kids going around door to door and selling the Mayflower on I guess this is on the day of May 1st, actually. Of course, connecting this with the big, union protesters, and I guess you have Labor Day over there, and this is on May 1st also, isn't that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the time of regeneration. And if you go back into the older mysteries, which existed even in pre-Christian times, they had the Maypole celebration, where you danced around the Maypole with its red and white streamers coming down, the male and the female.
Yeah.
And it was a time for, as I say, regeneration. It was a time also when the young were encouraged to go off with the young into the forest and have intercourse. The children that were produced or were conceived on May Day were often called Robin. And that's where you get the name Robinson, because they were conceived on that particular day. These are all pre-Christian celebrations.